India as a host country has just been above and beyond as a host. I think it's the first WTSA in India, but also in Asia. And WTSA, for people who don't know, is the World Telecommunications Standardization Assembly.
So what exactly is AI for Good?
Well, we were very privileged to have your Honorable Prime Minister Modi open our conference yesterday, and I think our members are still excited about the whole buzz. And one of his messages was very impressive. In a short amount of time, you went from 2G to 3G to 5G, so going from, let's say, catch-up mode to adoption mode to a follower mode, and then now in a leader role, especially for 6G.
So I have a very special guest with me, Mr. Fred Warner. He's Chief Strategy and Operations, AI for Good at ITU. Very good afternoon, Fred, and thank you so much for taking our time from your busy schedule.
And thank you for having me. It's really a privilege to be here in India at this amazing event.
So Fred, this is for the first time that ITU and WTSA is in India. How has your experience been till now?
Well, it's been phenomenal. I mean, India as a host country has just been above and beyond as a host. I think it's the first WTSA in India, but also in Asia. And WTSA, for people who don't know, is the World Telecommunications Standardization Assembly. And ITU is the United Nations Digital Technology Agency. And basically we do three things. We allocate radio spectrum and satellite orbits.
Okay.
We develop international technical standards that underpin modern telecommunication networks. And we also offer development help and technical assistance to developing countries to help bring up their ICT infrastructure. And actually we do four things, because we also organize the United Nations AI for Good Global Summit. And it's just a real pleasure to be here.
Mm-hmm. So what exactly is AI for Good?
So AI for Good was actually created in 2017. And if you think of that, that's an eternity in terms of AI years, right? This was before GPT, before any of the things we were talking about today. And it was built on the premise that at the time, AI has great potential to advance many of the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals.
Mm-hmm.
So everything from climate change to education for all, clean energy, affordable healthcare, gender equity, and of course more high-tech solutions, which we see here today in the exhibit, like robotics, autonomous driving, brain-machine interfaces. So I think, the use cases are definitely there. But the challenge is, how do you know that these use cases work equally well on men or women, or persons with different skin colors, persons with disabilities, on children or the elderly, or in countries with low resource settings where things like electricity and 5G and in India 6G are things we take for granted but are actually real challenges in the world. So the goal of AI for Good, simply put, is to identify practical applications of AI to advance the Sustainable Development Goals and figure out how to scale these solutions for global impact. And how do we do this? Well, first of all, we can't do this alone. So that's why we have 47 United Nations sister agencies as partners of AI for Good. That's virtually the entire UN system, basically involved in AI for Good. And also the AI experts themselves would say AI is too important to leave to the experts themselves. So great efforts have been made to bring as many different voices to the table, from governments to industry to academia to member states to NGOs, civil society, and even students, artists, athletes, the creatives, international media. So they all have a say in AI for Good, which has been going on for 7 years now.
How do you see India emerging as a superpower in telecom across the globe?
Well, we were very privileged to have your Honorable Prime Minister Modi open our conference yesterday, and I think our members are still excited about the whole buzz. And one of his messages was very impressive. In a short amount of time, you went from 2G to 3G to 5G, so going from, let's say, catch-up mode to adoption mode to a follower mode, and then now in a leader role, especially for 6G, and in a very short period. And I might tell you a little story. I was at an executive training many years ago, actually, and the CIO of Airtel was in my group. And we're all talking about our challenges of, what's your challenge in the telecommunication industry? And the European operators were more like, we have a saturated market, small margins, and fixed mobile convergence. And the CIO from Airtel, and this was probably 10 years ago, said, well, my challenge is adding 2 million customers a month. That's it. And that was 10 years ago. So I can only imagine how it is now. But it just signals, how the growth in India for telecommunications. And of course, telecommunications being the backbone of artificial intelligence, because without data and without connectivity and without mass digitization, you basically can't participate in the AI revolution. And I think that's why it's so important and so visionary to have that 6G leadership strategy.
How does AI for Good contribute to the new UN resolution on AI?
That's a very good question. So I think if you look at AI for Good, you have several areas of action. Of course, you have the Global Summit, which happens each year in Geneva and brings together the international community, industry, top AI experts. So for example, this year we had Geoffrey Hinton, who just won the Nobel Peace Prize, Sam Altman, everyone knows who he is, OpenAI, and everyone in between, right? But we also have all our UN partners there, all the NGOs. And then what's important is we've really evolved from a global summit to an all-year online platform where we have something in the order of 150 online events per year. And this is built on a platform called the Neural Network, which now has 36,000 participants from 183 countries, and many from developing countries who can't go to Geneva once a year, but they can go online every day and basically learn and participate in AI for Good. Of course, ITU is a standard-setting body, so we have 220 AI-related standards published or under development in areas like multimedia, quality of service for networks, for environmental efficiency, for cybersecurity, for network optimization, future networks, and very importantly, where ITU is positioned as a partner between other UN agencies who have, let's say, as problem owners, whether it's like agriculture or disaster management, or, for example, autonomous driving or health. And we're positioned with the industry because ITU has a unique membership model where we're the only agency that has 1,000 private companies as members driving our standardization work. Okay. Of that, we have 150 academic institutions and, of course, 194 member states. So that makes us uniquely positioned to collaborate with these UN agencies to develop standards on AI for health, disaster management, environment, agriculture, autonomous driving, future networks, and we're just seeing this area of work accelerate. And last but not least, when you look at AI governance, for example, this year we have the world's first AI governance day, where we really tried to bring our membership and our community together to go from principles to implementation. So if you look at all these fast-moving regulatory and governance processes accelerating around the world, whether it's like the UK AI Bletchley Summit, the Biden Executive Order, the EU AI Act, the Hiroshima process, in India you have the G20 with a global partnership on AI. What's encouraging is all these processes are accelerating at full speed. But I think there's also a big gap between the words and the ambitions of these texts, which are very good, and then how to actually implement these ideas that would eventually feed into regulations and policy and governance. And our view is that if you're going from principles to implementation, standardization is one of the concrete tools that you can use to support AI policy and governance.
Any collaborations they're looking for in India?
Well, absolutely. I mean, being ITU and AI for Good, one of our focus is being the most inclusive global platform on AI. So, you can't only have solutions developed in Silicon Valley or in Shenzhen or in a European university, because you need local solutions with local data, local culture, local context, and local experts contributing to these solutions. And I think when I look back to 2017, which seems like a long time ago now, there was almost a kind of handout mentality where, the big tech in the developed countries, we'll give you AI and it's fine. But I think we've really gone beyond that, where there's ideas, knowledge, expertise, 6G, data, connectivity, and where you can have innovation made for India, for the Indian culture in your many languages that's fit for purpose. And I think that's really the key to having AI for Good. Otherwise, it will just remain AI for Europe, USA, and China.
Yes. AI continues to evolve. I mean, it's evolving every day, every minute. Do you see it as a new big breakthrough that could revolutionize the global efforts? Any new global breakthrough that could revolutionize the global efforts?
Well, I think we were all taken by surprise when ChatGPT first emerged. I think that was kind of like our first realization that, AI is here, AI is real. And I think the next step is really looking at multimodal AI. where right now it's still very much text-based, but then you'll have, let's say, generative AI that will combine text with data, with images, with audio, with video in a way that is just completely fluid. And I think that will really transform and accelerate things. And then when you get through that hurdle, you'll get to the next level, if you will, where you have AI agents. And these AI agents will actually be able to act on your behalf and actually collaborate and innovate. And I think when you see that happening, that'll be very, very interesting. But actually, one thing I didn't mention is AI for Good has been a catalyst for robotics for good. So we've really, been bringing together the whole robotics community and also the brain-machine interface community to the global summit, because I think we might have another GPT-3 moment, but where you have more of a physical manifestation of AI in physical devices, whether it's robotics or IoT devices, autonomous driving, all these things. I think that has yet to happen. I mean, we're seeing examples of that, but when you see sort of going from LLMs to multimodal to AI agents and then finally entering the physical world with robots, cars, drones, and everything, yeah, I don't think we'll recognize the world we're in now. So what I'm trying to say is, I think we've brought the community together in a way that's extremely inclusive, where we've been able to further the discussion, where we're maybe a bit more prepared for these things than we would have been if you, for example, compare it to the dot-com boom, right? That came out of nowhere. People were like, well, this is great, let's just see how it happens. But there was no thought about cybersecurity, about like online bullying, the impact on social and mental well-being and social cohesion. And I think if we would have had the discussions we're having now at the advent of the dot-com boom, maybe the internet would be a very different place than it is now. And likewise with the social media boom. So I like to think we've had maybe three chances, 3 strikes you're out. The first 2, maybe we didn't quite deliver. But I think with this one, there's really a concerted global effort to make sure AI actually serves as a force for good.
For those looking to get involved with AI for good or similar initiatives, what advice would you give?
First of all, I would say go to aiforgood.itu.int, because in doing so, you can join our neural network community. It's free of charge. Anyone with an internet connection can join from anywhere in the world. There you'll have access to over 1,000 AI for Good webinars, keynotes, panels, talks, machine learning challenges, content from our pre-standardization efforts on disaster management, health, environment, autonomous driving. And that's really the first step, where you connect with the community, you learn, you inform yourself. But then there's, through ITU, we have these focus groups which actually don't require membership. So if you're an expert, you have data, you have knowledge, expertise, and you just want to share knowledge to advance these areas of work, you can go to itu.int, look at our focus groups and sign up there. Last but not least, if you can, I'd say come to Geneva once a year. And actually, I forgot to mention, on Friday, happening in this hall, we have AI for Good, the first official AI for Good Impact India. Okay. So it's the first official regional event that's been outside Geneva. And I think we're all very excited for that on Friday.
Fred, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.
Such
it's been a pleasure.
Insight that you had given us about the AI for Good. Thank you so much.
Thank you.